Welcome, everyone. It's a wonderful afternoon. We're excited here at Acme to be hosting all of you at today's webinar. My name is Jeff Lukash, and I'll be your host. We're really excited to have you join us as we take a closer look at the Acme design process and the many solutions we offer to help our customers create stronger and more effective packaging. In this session, we will walk through how design moves from concept to finished orders and explore different box styles, flutes, and board grades that are available, as well as highlight our Acme branded product lines such as Acme Guard and Powerwall. You'll also get a look at our palletizing software and our CAD table in action. So our goal today is simple. It's to show you how Acme makes the design process faster, easier, and more effective, ultimately helping you find the right corrugated solutions for your needs. So sit back, enjoy, and let's get started. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to John and Steve.
Hello, everyone. My name is Steve Hirschbuhl, and John, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm John Wilson, the other designer. Been here for 12 years now with a packaging engineering degree out of RIT.
Okay, my name is Steve Hirschbuhl. I've been here at Acme for 14 years, and I've started in the business running the machines back in 1989. So I've been about 36 years in the industry. Some of the things we want to talk about today is what we look to do in design at Acme is, we're either going to give us a box to copy, you're going to give us a product, and we're going to build something around that. What we want to do is we want to make sure that the process works for you and for us. There's many different types of styles, finishes. There's some with tooling, some without tooling. There's many different board grades. What we're looking to do is if you're going to pack something like a block of wood, I can make it a lighter box. If we're going to do like a bag of sand, it's going to settle, and you're going to need a stronger box. Obviously, if we're going to go to something like UPS is the way you're going to ship your product, then what we're looking to do is we're going to need to go something a little bit stronger usually because of that. And then we will make prototypes and everything. We're going to show you some things of what we like to do, some of the questions we like to ask, and as we go along, go through some of these drawings. Everything you'll see what we do is everything we do gets a number. Our number is it'll be 25 dash whatever the year is, and then whatever the number is so far this year, we just passed over 5,000 samples so far this year. If we change anything, if we change it a 1/16 of an inch, if we change it from craft to white, if we change it from 32 to 44 ECT, anything change would give it a new number. We do not overwrite numbers because there's been times where we've done something and it's been a process where you're going 1, 2, 3, and then you know what, hey, I really like number 2, so we can go back and then that'll be your number, and then the number that you have is 25-5001, then you'll know that's the number that was approved, and it'll always be that way. As you go through, we're going to show you some different styles. Next page, John. Okay, these are just basic styles that you're going to see in art. The first one is a standard RSC. This is the same box you're going to see. This does not require tooling. The next one is a half slot container. Also requires no tooling. And the last one is a full overlap slot container. Like I said, the standard box is the first one. You're going to see most of that on almost every box. And then the reason you're going to see some full overlap and other partial overlaps could be a couple of reasons. One of the reasons is, say you're selling shirts, and inside that box of shirts, when your customer goes and you send it out, and you go to Amazon, comes to the house, and they take the first thing they do is they take a knife and they cut it open, and they cut right through the shirt. So we don't want to do that. So sometimes we will partial overlap them flaps just enough, so that you can see that, just to keep the knife from cutting it, or actually there's protection reasons as well. But if you're going to do that and stack it on a pallet, it can tend to wobble, so you'll go a full overlap, and that helps with protection as well sometimes. Next. All right, so here's some other standard die cuts. The first one is a one-piece folder. That is our cheapest option. There is a die required. It's a one-time charge, but then once we make that, it's just an iron cross that wraps around, and this also can be overlapped as well. There's two other die cuts. The third one picture there is the one you see the most of in our business, is what here at Acme is one of our most common ones. You'll see that, but that doesn't always work for high depth boxes. So if you look at the one in the middle, there's just a different version of the same thing. We can do like the same size, and we're going to have two different drawings of the same thing showing you the differences there as well.
All right, I'm going to go over kind of reading or interpreting an Acme drawing. Just there's some things that are pretty self-explanatory, like client name, the ident, which is the box number you're going to want to call it. Say it's box 30 for you. We'll put that in there. Style, that's kind of referring to the last few slides, whether this is an RSC, like the first box we discussed. But we may have die cut container in there, which is the second set of drawings from the slide. And then corrugation direction, which is also shown here, a nice visual. That's the way the fluting runs. That is where you get all your strength in the box. So generally for these boxes, you'll see it running this way because you're stacking where the tape is on the top and bottom of the box. Side shown will almost always be outside view for our drawings, which is the print side or generic print side. Gluing, this is inside or outside, or sometimes we also have the stitching capabilities here. So we could have stitch inside, stitch outside on that. Inside dimensions, this is the most critical for boxes like this, and I'll go over a little bit more after. But this will be once you tape up the box, this will be, so your length will be 13 1/8, your width will be 9 5/8, and the depth will be 4 3/4 for the inside dimension. It can get a little confusing when you look at this 2D layout down below, because we have to, for manufacturing processes, show what we call score-to-score dimensions, where we add tolerances to accommodate for the thickness of the board. So this is C flute, so it's about 3/16 of an inch thick. So in these middle two panels, we add 3/16 of an inch to make sure you get to this 13 1/8 and 9 5/8 inside dimension. Finish blank is the overall sheet size. That's so once they go to quote it and get to production, they know the right size to make the sheet off the corrugator, and they can check it at the converting machine before they process the order. Board grade, we'll go into a little more detail later, but this states the strength and the flute of the board and whether it's craft or white. We do all of the routing and design for estimating to quote. So for this one, it's pretty standard. It can go on a lot of machines. So we just put Flexo folder gluer, which is our standard converting machines that don't require tooling for 90% of the jobs that go on it. And waste percentage for a simple box like this, there's not much waste to it. It's basically just the slots. Now this is a little more complicated. Sometimes you'll get these drawings. This will be for die cuts where we have multiple outs. So in this case, it's a 6 out. So you'll see this is the sheet size they would order off the corrugator. We'll have the routing of what this is. And then the 2D layout below will show the full sheet size here. So we have 6 outs. This can get a little confusing. So sometimes if you need a record of a 1 out, we can send that as a PDF with the dimensions called out, because some people don't need to see all of this, but this is mainly so that estimating can quote this for you and get you the proper cost. And as you can see, the waste numbers are a little different for some of these die cuts. Now, how Steve, when his initial, we'll call it a spiel, said we can give you multiple options of a die cut or an item if we think that we can save you some costs. So this is in reference to the die cuts where he said the depth was taller. As you can see, this has a waste percentage of about 14. This would be the recommended style we would give, but we've had people ask for the standard mailer style of this. So if you look, this is all wasted, non-usable material that has to be basically go up our scrap hogger chute and basically is useless. So that's at almost 50% waste. And when you go to look at it from a cutting die standpoint, this is all the extra rule added into a die so they can eject all of that scrap and get it up through our scrap chutes. I missed anything, Steve?
Steve, we lost sound.
All right. Can you hear me still at least?
No, I'm good.
No.
So you should be good now, right?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. So here's a sample sticker that we put on every sample that we make down here. We put on the customer, we put on the size, the ident. Sometimes this one here just says 15, 10, 10 die cut option 2, but it could be box 12 or whatever customer wants that would go there. The style, the board that we're using for this particular box, and then the sample number that we like is so important to us is the 25-4847. And then if you look at that drawing, if you go back, John, 2 more. Yeah, there you go. I'm sorry, the 1 more. There it is up the top corner is the 25-4847. All them numbers that you'll see will match and come out automatically on them stickers. All right, so here is the board grades that we offer. We have different board grades, and each one's good for different, has its own plus or minuses for better terms. E-flute is our thinnest board. It's approximately 1/16 of an inch thick. It's great because it gives you, because of the thinner board, it nice hard smooth surface, so it's good for printing. It's good for small inserts, small die cuts. It's also good for layer pads. It doesn't make the best RSCs. The flexo folder gluers are very high speed machinery, and because of the thinness of the board, when you go to kick that, it winds up having a lot of jam ups, so we are better off not making RSCs with E-flute. Our next one is just a little bit thicker, and we can tend to make some smaller boxes, some RSCs with this, but it also has the good print quality. It's good for small inserts, small die cuts, small RSCs, layer pads, and it can do, like sometimes if you get a box where it's, especially if it's like 15 by 5 and you tape up your bottom and it's going down and it tends to wobble a little bit. Because this board is being so thin, you can actually get it without having to die cut it or offset them scores and get that nice flat smooth finish, so it'll go down a conveyor line if that's what you're using in your process. B-flute is fairly common for most of your smaller die cuts. That's 1/8 of an inch thick. C-flute, we have a couple different board grades in that, up 200, 25, 32, 44, and 50 ECT, and the 200 is a Mullen grade. These are your most common board grade that you see on almost everything, as most of it is 32 ECT. It's good from any range from small to large boxes, and like I said, it's our most common one, and it really is no downside. It's not the best for printing, but it can be printed on. It can be printed on well, but there's some other options that we have here in these smaller micro double walls in the ED and the BD. There's basically the thickness of B-flute and C-flute, and it gives you a much better printing surface with the same thickness. The only downside I ever see in this one is that sometimes it can be hard to some small die cuts. It can be a little difficult to fold, but we can do some stuff on the machines like that with the cutting dies and stuff like that that we can work around that to keep the scores from cracking and other stuff like that we've gotten better at over the years since we've had it. I think we started these boards right after I started, so they got to be about 12 years that we've been running both of these grades. BC, this is good for large RSCs, and it has better puncture protection. This one also, like I was saying earlier, it can wobble it's in a smaller size. So usually these are for bigger boxes. We also offer Powerwall C-flute. This is our strongest single wall. This is very good for UN packaging. Other boxes can be used for UN packaging, but this is it's the most common for UN here. And we have the Powerwall BC flutes. The compression of a normal size 48 ECT is right around 1,000. With these heavier double wall grades, Powerwall 85, you can get up to 1,500 to closer to 2,000 pounds. These are very strong boxes, and they can be difficult to fold if they're too small. So you're looking to do usually pallet size boxes of 48 by 48. You're going to see a lot of that in this style board grade. Also, we offer the Acme Guard. Acme Guard is a moisture barrier. It's food safe, and it can be worked as a recyclable alternative to some wax. It can be very slippery is the only downside to it. One of the things that we did was there was a meat company that pours it in, and I'll get that. Yeah, they pour it into a mold, and they were using this blue bag, because there's no blue foods. And then we were able to change it, put it in this box, and it does not, even though it was wet, it goes in wet, it does not stick. So it was able to quick release, and we were getting a much better brick fold, and there's all flat bottoms, so it was all smooth surfaces. John, if you want to go back. The difference here we're showing is the difference of the pallet patterns of, if we have 25 pieces of C flute, which is the highest one there, we can get 36 pieces of the B flute and 48 pieces of the D flute all in one pallet. So we can help reduce your warehousing space by offering a thinner flute. Again, the D flute works for mid-range boxes, somewhere around 15 by 12 by 10. You don't want to go too much smaller than bigger than that, because it tends to, you get a little bit of bowing. But if your product is strong enough, it'll, like if you're like packing a block of wood rather than the sand, you could be all right with that.
All right, I'm going to give a quick overview of our TOPS palletizing software and just kind of a breakdown of what the issues with having overhang on a pallet can do to your boxes. So these are both examples of overhang in our TOPS software, but to start out, I'll show what we're capable of doing. We can add cartons to the shipper. We can add bottles. Some of the other things we try to add get a little goofy. So sometimes we will interpret your product as a carton or a bottle like this. And then we can actually build the box that we can say we want to add 1/8 of an inch perimeter around your product, and it will spit out the best box size for 12 here. Or say you don't know if you want 12, 16, or 20, but you just want the most on a pallet. We can say, show us options of that, like of those quantities, and it will generate the best pallet pattern for us. And we can say whether or not we would like overhang in that. We always say no overhang where we can, but we understand sometimes you need a certain count on a pallet, or your end user just won't take no for an answer. It happens, but we never recommend it. Because if you look here, when you're over the edge, you're losing all of the stacking strength of these corners where your fluting runs. And it really creates a weak point in the box where it tends to collapse. And once you start having collapsing issues on these bottom couple layers, your whole unit could tip over, which causes a mess. It could cause damage to your product, it could cause rework to repalletize, and we don't want to see that. You don't want to see that. So it just looks much cleaner if you can keep it inside of the 40 by 48. You also reduce the chance of a fork truck running into the side of or the edge of your box if they butt up to it. You're not going to get any puncturability here. And then in this pack out, it can tell you what your efficiencies are. So for this, you're at about 90%. So that's why maximizing your pallet is very critical, because say you do have a 24, your client wants a 20, end user wants a 24 count. It may drop this down to 4 per pallet, and you lose a couple, or you'll lose the amount per layer. So it's a lot easier to show them in a visual representation than us just saying it. So we're always willing to do this for you so that you can go back and get the best solution for yourself and your end user. I missed anything, Steve? All right. So then, as we discussed, we make samples. We will send it from our Ardios CAD software to our table PC, where we can select it's also referenced by the sample number, but we can then pick that item to run. We can say what type of size sheet we have, and we can run multi-out on the table. We can also piece together, if it's the same flute and board grade, we could have this item, then we could have a job for someone else and run it all on the same sheet. And here's what the table looks like. I believe it's 75 by 125, I believe is the size of this mat here, of the cutting surface. And we have 2 crease wheels. This heavy one is for double wall. It helps kind of deaden the material so it's easier to fold the sample. And then the smaller gold one is for single walls where you don't need as much of a indentation. Then it's actually a little X-Acto blade that vibrates that does all the cutting and perfs for the table. And here's a short video of the table running. All right. Thank you for your time. I'm going to turn it back over to Jeff to handle our field questions.
Well, gentlemen, that was just fantastic, and thank you both for doing that. At this point, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today and learning a bit more about the Acme design process and all of our capabilities. As you saw, we offer a wide range of box styles, flute profiles, board grades, along with many specialized product lines like Acme Guard and Powerwall. Every one of them which is designed to meet your unique requirements. So whether it's design, sampling, production, our goal is to deliver the best corrugated solutions in a timely and informed way. We're here as a partner and we want to help you succeed. So at this point, we'd like to open up the floor to questions you might have about the presentation. So if you have any, please take time now, add them to the chat, and I'll answer them as best as we can with both Steve and John. So Steve and John, if you could make sure that your microphones are on, we'll open to questions. We already have some flowing in. John and Steve, our first question comes from Helene, and the question is, what is the difference between ECT 32 and 200? They seem to be about the same.
You want to handle that or you want me to?
I'll take this one. The difference between 200 Mullen grade and 32 ECT is a couple of different things. They are very similar, and with the testing differences are the main reasons. On a Mullen test, it's actually a 1-inch balloon circle that goes through and it measures the puncture through the side of the box, whereas a ECT takes a 2-inch by 2-inch square and just kind of crushes down what it is. When you have a 200 Mullen grade, is regulated that it has to be 42, 23, 42, and there's a couple of different board grades that paper grades that can combinations that can make up a 32 ECT. There's not a set one that it has to be like you would see with the Mullen grades.
Great. We've got a whole host of questions. I've got another one here from Eric. The question is, could you please explain some of the differences between a handmade CAD sample and a production sample? For example, scoring slots, etc.
All right, so off the CAD table, as we showed you, we only have that 1 crease wheel and the X-Acto blade knife. So for your folding scores off the CAD table, it's going to be a lot more rigid, want to kind of spring back to 0 or a flat sheet. Whereas once you get a production run sample, we will use corrugator scores where it'll be able to hit from both sides, which will cause it to deaden that fold and make it much easier to fold and hold down and tape. So that's one thing to be aware of with a CAD sample versus a production sample. It would also be marginally tighter because of the crushing off the corrugate. Well, not crushing, but the machine convertings will slightly crush or impact the board. So if it works for the CAD sample, it definitely will fit off a production sample.
That's a great explanation. Thank you very much, John, for that. We've got a whole host of questions. I have another one here from Jason. How do you ensure alignment between the packaging design team and the manufacturing floor?
Jason, as we were talking earlier, and you've seen that John and I do the routing for most cases. So once we go through and we're going to send it to estimating for quoting it, it already has whether it's going to be, it's going to go in a flexo folder gluer. We're going to put it on the die cut rotary. We're going to put it. We have a flat die cutter as well. Each one of them machines would be spelled out how many out it's going to be, the trim is going to be, if there's tooling involved, it's a partial cutting die. All that thing will be spelled out on our specs. Also, once we go through and it gets to, and then it is approved, the order will come back to us and we'll send the dies to our partner to make the cutting die. They'll send John and myself back a PDF of the file that they're going to burn before it's burned. And John and I will approve that, send it back to them. They will send the die in with a knockoff. John and I will be the ones who check out against the original drawing. We'll make sure that it's, and sign it off, and we'll get it out to production. But it is not released into, the cutting die is not released to production until me and John have a chance to review it and make sure that it all matches the exact sample.
That's great.
Sample
That's
number.
great. Lots of checks and balances, Steve. That's awesome. We have another question from Clay. How do you decide when to use cut creases or perfs versus a standard crease for a given design?
That could be a few things. When going with the corrugation direction, so you're running with the fluting, we like to use perf scores there, especially in die cuts where you're trying to do like a rollover, because if you do not hit the right spot of the fluting, it tends to roll and sometimes it will not lock properly. Other things to think about are if it's a design where you're folding something backwards. So we have basically all of our machines die cut from the inside, at least all the full rotary die cutters. So if you're trying to fold something backwards with just a score, it's not going to fold cleanly, and sometimes it'll jackknife, sometimes it won't. You'll almost have like a wavy roll to it when it folds over. So those are two of the main reasons. And sometimes it's just the way the client's been doing it for years and we're replicating a box they've had. So, and some people just as a personal preference.
Excellent. Thank you. We have another question from Donna. What is the turnaround time of the design process?
It gets begs a difference between the sales reps, but we like to say 24 to 48 hours.
Excellent. Excellent. And then we have another question from Edgar. His question is, what's the best way we can use the pallet pattern software?
It's a software we subscribe to. So
Okay.
if you get with your packaging consultant and you tell them what you're looking to do, whether you just want to see what your existing box is laid out in the pallet, we can do that, or we can, if you send us what your product specifications are, we can give you some options on how to maximize a pallet. Those are the main ways we do that.
Okay. Good. Interesting. We have another question here from Helene. Why do some boxes have extended glue tabs?
But sometimes it could be a machine requirement. Sometimes it could be a company requirement. One thing we tend to do here is I've noticed is the shallow depth. Usually if you're going to have like a 3-inch depth, you can add 2 inches on each side, and it gives you, instead of a 3-inch glue area, it now gives you a 7-inch glue area. Also, if you're packing something with a bag, say if you have a sleeve of cups and they're in an individual bag, that glue tab will tend to catch on that bag. So if you extend it up past, you can start that bag in there and get it in there easier without the catching on the glue tab.
Good, good. We have a question from Mario. Is it possible for Acme to supply reference charts for our board grades and potentially the most used or most standard sizes that Acme sees in the market, possibly via email after the meeting?
Yeah, we should be able to come up with something.
Okay. So it
That should
sounds
be
like
easy
that's
enough.
something we can work on.
Yep.
So perfect. And then we have another question from Miguel wanting to know if it ever makes sense to use the cutting table to do a small order for, say, something like under 25 boxes.
We do that way more often than we want to. Actually, we ran 3 jobs today for one customer, all 25 each, just this morning. We do that every day.
It depends on the board, the size of the boxes versus the size of the table and the sheets we have. Those are some of the factors we take into account. Plus how many perfs and stuff, because when you add that into the table running it, it's not as simple as a stamp, basically like the rotary die cutter in production.
Right. And there's also a cost factor involved as well, right, guys? I mean, it's certainly going to be significantly more expensive to do it on the cutting table than it would be if we were doing a full run.
Correct.
Good, good. We have another question from Clay. Question number 2 for him. Do you guys support clients that want to use a combination of paperboard and corrugated for a particular design, whether it's working alongside the paperboard supplier or ordering paperboard to use in-house?
We do have some partition suppliers that we team up with, and they'll also do some layer pads if it's just, if you're looking just for like a SBS or a chipboard partition or something like that.
Okay, good, good. Well, at this point, everyone, I'd like to thank everybody for attending today. That was a great number of questions. We certainly appreciate everybody coming on board with us. If there are other questions that come in after we close the chat, don't worry, we can follow up with you via email. If you think of something later, please reach out to the team. You can reach out to us at info@acmebox.com. And I'd say keep an eye out for a recording of the webinar. We're happy to send that out to everyone. We'd like to again thank everybody for joining today. Know that we're going to continue the webinar series. We'll have another one coming up down the road, and we wish everyone a wonderful afternoon. So with that, I'm going to end the meeting. Have a great day.